Welcome everyone, and guess what? I'm not where I usually am today. I'm not wearing what I usually wear today. What is it? What's going on? Here's what's going on. I'm doing a live remote directly from the Erie County Fair in Hamburg, New York. We've got a couple of guests that are quite relevant to today's show. Who are they? You won't know until you watch right now. And as always, we're brought to you by the ever popular this company right here, because it wasn't queued up. Here we go. Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard. The Menden Honeylight Falls Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history. Welcome everyone to this edition of the State of Greater Western New York Report. Join us each episode as we discuss fantastic topics ranging from history to science to the strange and the wonderful, as well as the treasured spirit with which our region has infused America. We challenge you to consider all things Greater Western New York, from our region's very beginnings to how it inspires, how it empowers, and why it is so admired. Here's the host of the State of Greater Western New York Report, Chris Carosa. Hi there, everybody. You can't see me right now because I'm hiding from you. But here we go with our new kind of magic studio, our live remote studio. With me is Jessica Underberg. She is the chairman and CEO and Erie County Fair.
I am the CEO at the Erie County Agricultural Society, which of course runs the Erie County Fair.
It runs the Erie County Fair. And how long has the fair been going on?
This is our 182nd fair.
182nd fair, wow. Are they consecutive or did they skip a few years?
We skipped a few years, one of the most recent ones being 2020 because of COVID.
But we still have people coming back.
Absolutely.
So tell us, what's new and different about this year's fair?
You know, I think one of the things that's kind of unique about this year's fair is the entertainment options are so varied. We've had everything from Trace Atkins, Lone Star, and Terry Clark to tonight we have Nelly in the grandstand, and tomorrow night we have a comedian, Gabriel Iglesias. We had the Happy Together tour. There seems to be something for everybody, and we've had the Stars of the Peking Acrobats. You could be standing in line for a piece of fried dough and a piano whizzes past you playing music. All kinds of different things for folks to see and do.
Well, what's your favorite part of the fair?
My favorite part of the fair, hands down, is the livestock.
Livestock. You said that last year. At least you're consistent.
It's always the favorite.
So, do we have pig races again, or is that?
We have to have pig races.
We have to have pig
I don't
races.
think it would quite be the fair without pig races, but yes, we do. We have our pig races. We have the Ultimate Stunt Circus, which is really great. Some acts came to us from America's Got Talent. We have a new comedian. Her name's Sharon from Canada. She's down in that same area, right with the racing pigs and all of that, the circus stuff.
Okay. So what's probably the most often asked question that people have when they come to the fair?
Well, relating to the fair, probably where's the bathrooms, where's the baby animals, where's the racing pigs. Sometimes ask where the food is that they're looking for. Non-fair, myself, the staff, get asked all the time, what do you do the rest of the year?
What do you do the rest of the year?
Plan for these 12 days.
Was there anything that had to go different this year in the planning? You came off last year off of COVID. Were there still some remnants of COVID this year?
There have been some kind of strange things that probably the average fairgoer wouldn't recognize. For instance, the cheesecake guy has been with us for a couple of years, and he couldn't come this year because he couldn't get enough cream cheese to fulfill the volume that we would need here at the Erie County Fair. So that kind of thing is strange. But the other thing is that we noticed there were some things that we had to do in 2021 because of the regulations that we actually didn't hate. For instance, a line of joints down the center of trackside just kept everything really tight in the past. And we noticed last year, you know what? On busy days, it was great to have that extra room. So we just adjusted our layouts on purpose this year to kind of mimic what we did in 2021. Same kind of thing in some of our buildings, just giving people a little more elbow room.
One of the things I noticed that you kept from last year is free parking.
Yes, yes.
And
that was, number one in 2021, that was for the touch points, eliminating the touch points. But what we noticed is for our community. It helps people get people in off of the street quicker, so we're not experiencing the backups maybe that we would in the past, because we're not stopping each car to take their payments and give them their tag. We just wave them into a spot and keep going. And the other reason is for safety and security. You know, a lot of our folks that work in our parking lots are young folks, and we don't live in the same world we used to live in, and so there is no asset out at our lots that is worth giving anybody any trouble over.
Now, what about changes? What things have changed here in the fair in terms of maybe exhibits or attractions that did not come back with COVID?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, we used to have our circus inside of a tent, and it was great, but for COVID, we put it outdoors so more people can watch, and again, a little more space. I don't know if we'll be back in a tent. You know, it just gives us the opportunity to be outdoors, more people to be able to watch it, and not so crowded. But as far as something that didn't come back, you know, I think most things have kind of rebounded, maybe looking a little differently, but they've rebounded.
So I'm going to ask you a question that I get asked all the time. What's your favorite food?
Ooh, I would say this year the Brazilian bowl has been great. I've also had the sliders at the Slider City Sandwich Department, the fire truck. That's been great. The Peachy's Donut is to die for. Those are some of my go-tos.
And for families coming in, are there any special attractions or deals for families with young kids?
So just remember that kids 12 and under are free every day of the fair. So it gives the families an opportunity to come in, and with the young kids especially, make sure they get to Little Hands on the Farm. That's a great attraction for young kids, like that 2 to 6, maybe 2 to 10 age. It's perfect for that age group. And that's only open 11 till 6. So make sure you check that out. And then don't forget, you can bring your coolers in, just no propane, no glass, and no alcohol.
In terms of the exhibitors, how many of them are local? What percentage are local versus out of town?
Livestock exhibitors, a good portion are local to Western New York. As far as food, there's a really good mix. And the interesting thing to see is that there's a young gentleman that lives right on McKinley Parkway, in fact. He's local, but if you look at his stands, they look professionally, they're professional trailers, like you would see travel from fair to fair to fair to fair. And he's starting to do that too. There's a couple of young folks coming into the business like that. So,
how do you recruit those people? How do you find them?
You know, it's just like anything else. It's not an easy way of life. Being on the road, long hours, you know, sometimes if you want to continue your job throughout the year, you have to go south, you know, in the winter months, because Florida fairs run in January, February, March, things like that. So it's not an easy way. A lot of people are born into it, but people are always looking to find that next generation to step in and help them out.
And in terms of longevity, what's your oldest exhibitor or vendor that you've had consistently?
I would say probably the fried dough stands. Rennie Peachy came here years ago. And then I would say I was watching the Ramblin' Lou family band the other day. Joni, Ramblin' Lou's wife, has been playing on our fairgrounds for 57 years.
Wow.
For herself. And I tell you what, she can rock on that guitar.
Was there any, like, when people are here for a long time, or families are here for a long time, is this the only thing they do in terms of fair-related activities, or do you find that they're generally, say, full-time concessionaires?
It's a mix of both. You know, the food stand I just mentioned, they travel around the country. They have other stands at other locations while they're even here. So it's a mix of both, but there are some people that the best 12 days of summer in Western New York, you know, that's their thing.
How about rides? I mean, we've had straights for how many years now? Long time.
98 years now.
98 years?
We're going to celebrate 100 years in 2024.
Wow.
That's the longest fair and carnival partnership in the world. and it will likely go down as the longest ever, unless 100 years from now there's another partnership like that, but it's pretty impressive.
Is there any particular ride that you think is most noteworthy that most people will remember?
Well, I think the ones that get ridden the most are probably the Ferris wheel and the merry-go-round, because people like myself who can't do spinny rides and don't really care for things that are a little crazy, I can still do those. So, and those offer a generational opportunity to ride together. Likely, Grandma and Grandpa aren't going to get on the Himalayan with the 5-year-old, but they're definitely going to get on the Ferris wheel and the merry-go-round. And then another new ride that they brought in this year is the Crazy Mouse. It's an excellent roller coaster. Sometimes the cars spin, sometimes they don't. But what I've been noticing is if you look at night, the light packages and stuff that are on these rides, just the way that the LED lights are flashing and moving and changing, it's so cool.
It is. I have to get a good picture for our files.
Yeah.
How about, we got, I think, just time for one more question, but it could be a long answer. In terms of, say, local exhibits, what do you see is the most popular, and what maybe is an added twist this year that's different from previous years?
I think it's always neat to come into the Creative Arts Building and the Wood Carvers Building to see your neighbor's talents. For someone who cannot draw a stick figure, I'm amazed when I see the talents of both the young and the older, the things that they can do. So I think that is a unique piece. But then all of the shopping experiences at the fair, there's always something new and different in those buildings.
Do people buy a lot of things?
They do, and a lot of that depends on the economy too. But shockingly enough, the economy must be strong enough that people are buying.
Well, that's good. And what are the early numbers on attendance? Do you have any
I don't
feel?
know as of yet, but we're in pretty good shape.
Weather's not been a problem. I know we had some rain, but
For the last 2 days, we have skirted the hail and the nasty storms that have hit both Alden and Depew, but they have not hit here. We had some rain yesterday, but honestly, by 5-6 o'clock, you wouldn't have known we had rain.
well, on the really hot days, that rain isn't so bad.
Honestly, I'd rather have a rainy day than a hot day, because a rainy day you can duck into the buildings, people bring their umbrellas and their raincoats, they still get out and see the fair. On a hot day, nobody wants to be outside when it's that warm.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, thank you very much for being with us today. And stay tuned, everybody. We've got another guest coming up. But first, here's a hint. Within the mists of time lie buried uncoverable answers to history's most compelling questions. What really happened to the lost continent of Atlantis? How did ancient Greeks possess the technology to create the Antikythera mechanism, and what did they use it for? Why did hundreds of people suddenly start dancing in the streets of Strasbourg during July 1518, and then, just as suddenly, die? Who was Jack the Ripper? And finally, where did Amelia Earhart end up? These questions pale to the ultimate mystery. It's the mystery behind something that has touched us all and will continue to touch generations into the future. It's the mystery behind a trillion-dollar industry. It's the mystery behind something so simple, so common, so obvious, that no one bothered to write it down. It is the birth of the world's first hamburger. Did the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis really inaugurate the Hamburg sandwich, as purportedly described in a New York Tribune article that same year, and as taught by McDonald's famous Hamburger University? Or was the first hamburger made in 1900 at Louis' Lunch, a diner in New Haven, Connecticut, as reported by the New York Times, and recognized as such by the Library of Congress? Or did Fletcher Old Dave Davis first place a ground beef patty on bread in the late 1880s as suggested by the Dallas Morning News? And if the hamburger really was first invented in 1885, either by Charles and Green at the Outagamie County Fair in Seymour, Wisconsin, or by Charles and Frank Menches at the Erie County Fair in Hamburg, New York, which fair occurred first? Join me as we explore these various origin stories and use classic crime-solving techniques to reveal the answer to one of history's greatest culinary whodunits in Sherlock Holmes and the Shrine of the Four and a Half? Are you interested in finding out who done it? Read Hamburger Dreams, How Classic Crime-Solving Techniques Help Crack the Case of America's Greatest Culinary Mystery. Available in fine bookstores everywhere, and in an ebook edition too. Hey, welcome to our live remote from the Erie County Fair, the Hamburg Fair in Hamburg, New York. With me is none other than John Menches. He is the great-grandson of Charles Menches. Charles Menches, one of the people featured in that little spot there, who, with his brother Frank, invented the first hamburger, sold the first hamburger. So, John, let's cut right to the quick. What do you think of this year's fair? I know you've been here a few times. What are you thinking?
How can you not have a great day? Look how nice it is out here. I hope your audience can see this. Bright sunny days, mid-70s. It's great. I just enjoyed everything. We had some food here last, playing on the games and rides here in a minute. Just a great day to be out, having us.
So what does it feel like to be at the place where your great-grandfather helped sell the first hamburger? What just breathing the air, walking in the same footprints?
You know, it's really humbling knowing over here to my left is the spot where they may have been in 1885. Just being on the same grounds that they were on that September 18th day, doing all this. It's just really great, and we were able to carry on our business in Ohio and where they were born and raised, and this is where we're coming to enjoy a couple days a year.
Now tell us a little bit about your own family's discovery of the origin of the hamburger. Now you've always heard the story that you sold the hamburger, but you didn't know where it was exactly in the beginning, right? It
Right.
took a while.
We all knew ever since we were kids what our great-grandfather Charles did. But being young and everything, people would laugh at us because, of course, you should be rich and famous. But we weren't. We're just humble people, a little family. We found some old family records back in 1990, and in that we discovered, by golly, there really was an original recipe to the hamburger crisp, and we tried it out, and we really thought it was different, liked it, and we reopened their businesses in 1991, 92, and we celebrated here in Hamburg, New York, a one-day festival with the city, and that was a great day, and that launched us, and we're bringing it back.
So you've got a couple of restaurants in Akron still?
We have a
Or new?
restaurant in Akron, Ohio, and one in Massillon and Canton, Ohio. So it's all family owned, and that's where we're at the moment.
Now, do people come there just for the original hamburger, or do you have other things on the menu?
Well, of course, we're a full-service restaurant, Chris. We feature the original hamburger, but we have 50 different versions of that hamburger. And people really go nuts when that happens. And few people are trying to do every one hamburger, and hopefully it takes them about a year, and then it's really good.
Do you have like a punch card or passport or something? that
That's
you give?
exactly one of the things we got. You come in, we'll punch the one that you had last, and at the end of, we've already so far that have eaten every one of the hamburgers. We've given them a Menches Brothers shirt. We posted them on our Facebook, on the internet. We have a booth at the restaurant named after them, because whoever can do this, we're going to name a booth after you. So every time you come in the restaurant, you have your own personal seating area.
So with 50 different hamburgers, what do you think is the most popular hamburger? What do people order the most of?
Well, you know, in our area, LeBron James is from our area, so we have a King James burger. It's a pretty spicy burger. People like that one because of the area. They like the Glory Burger, which is mozzarella cheese, grilled onions, and it's a great sandwich. And of course, the Pop's Double. That's the half pounder. That's a challenge to eat by itself. So those are all great.
That's pretty
Pickle
big.
burgers, and yeah, we even have a mashed potato burger. What the heck?
Is it made out of mashed potatoes, or does it have mashed potatoes
We
on
got
it?
mashed potatoes on them,
Oh, wow.
so that's pretty cool.
Got to build up those carbs. So what are you doing new? I mean, it's it's one thing to have a restaurant with the original recipe hamburger. What sort of things do you do to keep
Well,
your...
we're trying to do, always wanted to, we always like to see if we can get the whole country to know who Frank and Charles Menches were, inventors of the hamburger. So our goal is to get it to be a national name, a national product, and if we're lucky, it would be a global product. We're working on some new Web3 developments, which is kind of hard for us old guys to understand, but the younger people understand it. And we're going to do with some NFTs, and October 8th, we're going to launch ours into the Web3 world sites. So we're going to have our recipes sent worldwide.
So do you want to have Dani come in and explain that?
That'd
So-
be great if she would. She's a lot better at it than I am.
Let's call her over. Hey, Dani. Dani! Here, give her the mic. This is one of the great things about live shows is that you're there in person and you can just call somebody who's standing out there not knowing what's going on and have her come up and talk about something that, well, she knows about. So tell us about this Web3 and NFT. And here's your camera, so you can look in there if you want. But you can look at me too, you know, it's okay. But I think it's better if you look at the camera. I'm looking at it right now.
All right, how's that?
That's good.
Good.
Maybe I should look at the camera too. So tell us about this Web3 idea that John was telling us. What's new about that, and who are you trying to attract with that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. So we've really been studying Web3 and the future of the internet, the future of the digital age for the past year. It's become very apparent that there's the next evolution of the internet is here, it's happening. There are so many talented people building in Web3, and a lot of businesses are really starting to think about how they're going to evolve their business and market their business and grow their business in the next wave of the digital era. And so we at Menches Brothers at our restaurants are also coming up with strategies and ideas as to how we're really going to leverage Web3. And so we've put together, in partnership with Metaversal, we've put together an NFT, which will start out as a restaurant membership program where our locals, it's going to be family and friends at first. We're minting October 8th and 9th. Our locals will be able to buy into our restaurant membership program through this NFT. And with that comes 20% off at the restaurant, in addition to other perks and discounts and specials and access to a private menu and private events. And so this is our first time, our foray into Web3, and I think it positions us nicely to be ready for when restaurants evolve into the metaverse.
So this NFT, now most people may or may not know what NFTs are. They really started off as collectibles, like baseball cards, except digital. You're introducing a little bit of a twist here, where it's not just a collectible. Actually, it's maybe a twist like some of these baseball card companies have done. You're actually giving them a value beyond the item itself with these deals. And what made you think of this idea?
Yeah, sure. So yes, these NFTs did start out primarily known as collectibles, which artists would draw amazing artwork digitally. It would be available digitally where you could buy the artwork, you know, and have that on your phone. You would have ownership, similar to how we physically buy the Mona Lisa, for example. If you physically buy the Mona Lisa, that is a piece of value that you own in your home. And so now we can buy artwork digitally, but with that artwork now comes what's called, with a smart contract, right, comes what we are calling like membership perks or rewards. And so we're starting to see more rewards programs similar to this come out. I know Starbucks recently announced that they are coming out with an NFT that has their rewards program that lives on the blockchain, and they're building that right now. There's other people within the food industry that are really exploring this idea too.
So let's shift a little bit from business to family history. Now you're the next generation, and I'm wondering, what do you feel walking in the steps that your great-great-grandfather once walked in to sell the first hamburger? What does it mean to you?
It's really such a fascinating history and story, and my goal and my family's goal, my siblings, is to really evaluate how we can carry on the story and the legacy and the history, not just locally within the Akron, Canton, Ohio area, but how can we expand that globally, and how can we share that story and give everybody around the world a taste of history, allow everyone the opportunity to taste the original burger recipe. And I think that there's a ton of opportunity and value just in that. I mean, everybody loves burgers or cheeseburgers, and so if they get the opportunity to taste the first burger, or the recipe of the first burger, I think there's a really cool idea there.
Now, the story of the Menches brothers goes well beyond burgers. What are some of the things that you talk about at home regarding what they did? And maybe tell us a few of some of the things that they did.
Yeah, so in addition to being accredited with serving the first burger, they also have history with possibly inventing the waffle cone, right? Or possibly inventing the Cracker Jack. And so there's so many stories to uncover from the Menches brothers, but they were entrepreneurs, they were creators, they were artists. They have such a very dynamic history and past that carried throughout Northeast Ohio, and it's fascinating to learn.
So I'm trying to think now, you are probably young enough, if you don't mind me saying, that to you, you've always known about this story. Is that a correct assessment?
Yes.
So tell me about your peers. So I've talked to your uncle and your mother about what they thought their peers, and their peers sometimes question whether or not the story was accurate. Now you're in an era where there's less of a question on the accuracy of the story. So what do your peers tell you?
Immediately, if I say that I'm the great-great-granddaughter of the inventor of the hamburger, they smirk. They kind of light up because, again, as I had mentioned, like, everybody loves a cheeseburger, and that's just a cool thing to be associated with as the inventor of the hamburger. But, you know, occasionally somebody will Google it, or they'll Google the name, or they'll want to find more information out. And thanks to your book, we're starting to really see a lot of the real story behind the Menches brothers come out on the internet, and so we have proof behind it to prove that, and that's cool.
Yeah, as an aside, one of the things that always amazes me is even at the Erie County Fair, where it happened so many years ago, there are people who remain skeptical as to the veracity of this story. But facts are facts, and obviously you can read all about them in the book. Shameless plug for my book. But it is a story that really has more interest. Once people, I think you're right when you talk about cheeseburger, although we can get into that, a totally different story with a cheeseburger. But the idea of a hamburger being so universal, people are attracted to this story. And it's, do you ever get a question about the hot dog? Because I do. I mean, I'm just wondering if you do.
Just recently, I feel like more people have asked me about the hot dog if I knew who invented the hot dog, because now that people can realize, like, oh yeah, somebody actually did really invent and serve the first original burger. Like, who possibly did the hot dog?
So I'll ask the same question I asked your uncle, and that is, there's 50 burgers at the family restaurants. Which one is your favorite?
I'd have to say burger is my favorite. I love having grilled onions on the burger, and that one's famous for having grilled onions and grilled mushrooms.
Well, Dani, thank you very much for being on the show, and John, I'll say thank you to you too over there, and thank everyone for watching this week's version of the State of Greater Western New York, which was live from the Erie County Fair. And obviously you can always watch it live every Thursday at noon, or you can watch the replay every Sunday at 1:30. If you like our Facebook page, you'll be notified when it airs. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll be notified when it airs there. And finally, if you don't like Facebook or YouTube, just go to our website, stateofgreaterwesternnewyork.com, and you'll be able to see the show itself. Also, if you go there and you want to be able to ask questions during the live portion of the show, just sign up and you'll be notified every Thursday morning where to link to see the live version. That's all we have for today, folks. Thank you very much for watching, And we will see you all. When will we see you all? Next week. Bye-bye for now.